The night before my wedding, the rain lashed against the dark asphalt road of the urban viaduct, splashing dense layers of water mist that blurred the neon lights of the entire city. I'm Naomi Carter, 29 years old, a senior partner at the city's top architectural design firm. After 3 years of long-distance running and 5 years of deep relationship nurturing, I was supposed to put on a white wedding dress tomorrow and marry Garrett Hayes, the man I had loved wholeheartedly and trusted without reservation for 5 years. All wedding arrangements had been finalized. The wedding dress was tailored and hung in the cloakroom. The wedding banquet was fully booked at the 5-star Landmark Hotel. The relatives and friends guest list was confirmed, and even the wedding vows I had revised dozens of times were quietly stored in my mobile phone note. I had spent 5 years polishing this relationship, tolerating his busyness, understanding his so-called work pressure, compromising my social time and career schedule for him, and foolishly believing that we were walking hand in hand towards a stable and happy future. I thought our love was steady and unshakable, a model of mature and rational urban love that could withstand the test of time and distance. Until this rainy wedding eve, everything completely collapsed. It was 9 o'clock in the night, and I just finished sorting out the final wedding procedure documents at the company and prepared to drive home to make the final preparations for tomorrow's wedding. The moment I started my private car and stepped on the brake pedal to reverse out of the company parking space, I suddenly found that the brake pedal was completely soft and failed to respond at all. My heart tightened violently, and cold sweat instantly soaked through my back. The road outside the parking lot was a steep downhill viaduct. If I had driven the car onto the road just now, the complete brake failure would have made me lose all control, rushing straight down the viaduct, and the ending would have been a catastrophic car crash with no chance of survival. It was a narrow escape, a deadly crisis that almost took my life. My limbs were weak with lingering fear, and my hands holding the steering wheel kept trembling. I immediately turned off the engine, called the vehicle maintenance personnel, and was told that the car's brake system was artificially damaged, which was extremely dangerous and could not be repaired on the spot. The heavy rain outside was getting heavier and heavier. There were no empty taxis on the road, and the online car hailing service showed a full queue with a waiting time of more than an hour. I had no choice but to send a message to my fiancé Garrett, wanting to borrow his private car to go home and settle the trivial matters before the wedding. Garrett's reply came quickly, concise, and perfunctory without any concern. The car is parked at the gate of my community. The key is in the hidden box under the flower bed. You can drive it yourself. I have something to deal with tonight, and I can't pick you up. There was no inquiry about why I needed to borrow a car, no concern about the heavy rain and my safety, only a cold and casual arrangement. At that time, I only thought that he was busy with work and didn't think much about it. I dragged my tired body through the heavy rain to his community, found the car key, and opened the door of his black luxury sedan. The car was clean and tidy, with his usual faint cedar cold fragrance lingering inside, which was the familiar smell I had been used to for 5 years. I sat in the driver's seat, adjusted the seat and steering wheel to my suitable position, and pressed the engine start button. The engine roared to life gently, and the central control screen lit up with a faint blue cold light, instantly illuminating the quiet and narrow carriage. Before I could take any action, the car's built-in GPS navigation system automatically started without any operation on my part. A clear and mechanical female voice suddenly echoed in the silent carriage, piercing straight into my eardrums and completely crushing all my 5 years of sincere love in an instant. Recalculating the default route to Waverly Apartment, after picking up the little princess, proceed to Oak Ridge Amusement Park. The world in my eyes fell into a dead silence in an instant. The rain crackled on the car window, but I couldn't hear any sound. My brain went blank, and all the blood in my body seemed to solidify at this moment. Waverly Apartment. I knew this place all too well. This high-end Riverview apartment complex is not in my community, nor on my daily commute route. It is the exclusive residence of Macy Bennett, Garrett's female subordinate whom he has always claimed to be just an ordinary colleague. And Little Princess. This childish and intimate nickname, Garrett had never used it on me in 5 years of relationship. He had always been mature and rational in front of me, gentle and distant, never intimate, never coquettish, never using any sweet nicknames. I had always thought that was his inherent personality, that he was a man who was not good at expressing love. It turns out that he was just not willing to be tender and intimate with me. All his unspoken tenderness, all his exclusive pampering, all his meticulous arrangements had long been given to another woman quietly. My fingers hanging on the steering wheel trembled violently, and my heart was filled with bone-piercing coldness, spreading rapidly to every inch of my skin along with the cold blue light of the dashboard. I forced myself to calm down, suppressed the overwhelming soreness and panic in my heart, and slowly hovered my thumb over the central control screen, clicking on the historical navigation records without hesitation. The moment the record list popped up, I completely fell into the abyss of absurdity and despair. Dense route records covered the entire screen, all starting and ending at Waverly Apartment. Shopping malls, suburban train stations, city airports, amusement parks, night view restaurants, seaside promenades. Every route was a romantic dating spot that lovers would go to, a life track that I had never set foot in with him in 5 years. And the most shocking and heartbreaking record was fixed at the top of the list, repeated day after day, without interruption. Every morning at 8 o'clock sharp, the route started from Waverly Apartment and headed to Macy's workplace. Every evening at 6 o'clock on the route returned from Macy's workplace to Waverly Apartment. 5 working days a week, uninterrupted for 5 full years. For 5 years, Garrett had been Macy's exclusive private driver. He shuttled through the crowded urban traffic for her every morning and evening, rain or shine. Never absent, never perfunctory. He remembered her commute time clearly, tailored a fixed travel route for her, and even set the apartment where she lived as the default navigation address of his car, and regarded her as the little princess who needed to be picked up and pampered. I sat stiffly in the driver's seat, staring at the dense navigation records on the screen, and the dusty memories in my mind suddenly flooded out, forming a sharp and cruel contrast that shattered my heart. Just last week, I stayed up 3 consecutive nights to rush out a key project design drawing for the company, working more than 16 hours a day with no rest. On the 3rd night, my blood sugar dropped sharply due to long-term overwork and hunger. I was dizzy and weak, and I could barely hold my mobile phone. The empty and quiet office made me feel extremely flustered and helpless. At that time, the first person I thought it was my fiancé, Garrett. I held my shaky body, dialed his number with a last bit of strength, and almost begged in a weak tone, hoping he could drive 2 miles to my company to pick me up. The distance from his community to my company was only 2 miles, a 5-minute drive at most. But what I got was his decisive and cold refusal, without any hesitation. "This is a complete detour, Naomi. Besides, your company reimburses Uber fees for night shifts. Just call a car, it's more cost-effective." Detour? Cost-effective? I suddenly laughed bitterly in the empty carriage, the laughter desolate and ridiculous, with tears rolling in my eyes but never falling. For 5 years, the distant Waverly Apartment, which was dozens of miles away from his community, was never a detour for him. No matter how far the road was, no matter how congested the traffic was, no matter how bad the weather was, he could stick to picking up and dropping off Macy every day for 5 years. But for me, his fiancée who was about to marry him, even a 2-mile short distance was an unbearable detour, a worthless waste of time and energy. To him, Macy was the little princess who needed meticulous picking up and dropping off, careful pampering and romantic company. And I was just a rational and independent adult who could solve all difficulties by myself, a tool person who was suitable for marriage, but not worthy of tenderness. The 5 years of deep love and devotion, the 5 years of unreserved trust and compromise, turned out to be just my one-sided wishful thinking and self-moving farce. Our life tracks had never truly overlapped for a single day. The so-called love and future marriage were just me walking alone on a dedicated track, while he had long been traveling back and forth on another lover's road. I slowly raised my right hand, the delicate and customized platinum engagement ring shining coldly under the blue dashboard light. This ring was carefully selected by Garrett half a year ago when he proposed to me. He said it represented his lifelong commitment and exclusive love to me. I once cherished this ring more than my own life, wearing it every day without taking it off, regarding it as the most precious promise in my life. But now, this cold ring was extremely ironic and ridiculous. I stretched my fingers slightly, and the platinum ring slipped off my knuckles easily without any hesitation. I bent down gently and placed the ring flat in the car's cup holder, the movement calm and decisive without any reluctance or nostalgia. If our roads have never truly converged, what's the point of pretending to walk side by side for a lifetime? The wedding scheduled for tomorrow? I don't want it anymore. The 5 years of unrequited love? I don't want it anymore. This hypocritical and betrayal-filled man? I don't want him anymore. At this moment, all my tenderness and compromise completely died. From this wedding eve, I am reborn from the abyss of betrayal, and the official supreme counterattack begins. Hashtag Chapter 1 First Explosion. Zero hesitation awakening. On the spot abandonment of engagement. Complete emotional break. The heavy rain outside the car window gradually subsided, and the night wind blew through the gap of the window, bringing a biting coldness, but it completely awakened my numb and decadent heart of 5 years. I sat in the driver's seat. My eyes no longer had any grievance, hesitation, or sadness, only unprecedented calm and cold determination. Many trivial details that I had ignored and excused for him over the years suddenly flooded into my mind, and all the confusing doubts were instantly solved. I finally understood why he was always busy with work every weekend, why he always had social engagements on every Valentine's Day and anniversary, why he was never willing to take the initiative to take me on a romantic date, why he was always perfunctory and distant in intimate contact. It was not that he was not good at expressing love, nor was it that he was under great work pressure. It was simply that his time, tenderness, and romance had long been fully occupied by another woman. I was just his most suitable marriage candidate in his life plan, a stable and decent fiancé who could help him stabilize his family reputation and meet the expectations of his relatives and friends, but never his beloved person who was willing to pay and pamper wholeheartedly. Macy was 3 years younger than me, with a sweet and soft appearance, good at acting coquettish and showing weakness, completely different from my independent, rational, and strong personality. Garrett had always liked weak and dependent women, but I had foolishly thought that my excellence and independence were my shining points, and that he would cherish my maturity and stability. It turned out that all my strengths were the reasons why he was alienated from me. All my weaknesses and grievances were never seen by him. He was willing to run thousands of miles for Macy's trivial needs, but he was not willing to take a 5-minute detour for my life-threatening weakness. This is the most real and cruel truth of this relationship. I picked up my mobile phone, opened the chat interface with Garrett, and looked at his last perfunctory message, without any hysterical quarrel or tearful questioning. People who are not worth it are not worthy of my emotion and tears. I typed a line of clear and cold words, concise and powerful, completely ending the 5-year relationship and the upcoming wedding. The wedding tomorrow is canceled. Our engagement is terminated. From now on, we have no contact with each other. After sending the message, I directly blocked all his contact information, including mobile phone number, WeChat, social software, and email, completely cutting off all possible connections between us. No entanglemento, no explanação, no nostalgia. Since he chose to betray and perfunctory first, I will choose to leave thoroughly and decisively. After handling the emotional break, I began to sort out all the evidence in the car calmly and methodically. I took high-definition screenshots of all the 5-year navigation records, recorded the automatic GPS voice playback video, and stored all the evidence in my encrypted cloud disk for backup. These are the most powerful ironclad proofs of Garrett's long-term emotional betrayal and deceptive marriage. After finishing all the evidence preservation, I started the car again and drove steadily back to my own apartment. The whole process was calm and rational, without any trembling or confusion. The me who was willing to compromise and humble for love 5 years ago is completely dead. The me who is reborn tonight only has self-respect and a thorough counterattack. 10 minutes after I blocked Garrett, his frantic calling and message bombing began. His calls kept popping up on my block list, and his messages were full of confused questioning and pretended anger. Naomi, what's wrong with you? Why cancel the wedding suddenly? Are you making trouble unreasonably? We have been together for 5 years. How can you be so willful on the eve of the wedding? What do you want me to explain to my relatives and friends? Unblock me immediately. We need to talk clearly. Don't lose your temper randomly. He still maintained his superior and condescending attitude, habitually blaming me for being willful and unreasonable, completely unaware that his 5-year hypocrisy and betrayal had been completely exposed. Looking at these ridiculous messages, I just sneered and turned off the message reminder directly, no longer paying any attention to his farce. It's just the beginning of his retribution. Hashtag chapter 2-second explosion. Hidden danger exposure. Artificial break failure uncovers malicious conspiracy. The next morning, the original wedding day that should have been full of romance and blessings became the starting point of my comprehensive counterattack. I changed the custom white wedding dress that was supposed to be worn for the wedding, put on a neat and capable professional suit, and sat at the desk to sort out all the clues and evidence overnight. At 8 o'clock in the morning, the vehicle maintenance staff sent me the detailed inspection report of my private car, which completely pushed the whole incident to a more terrifying and cruel depth. The inspection report clearly pointed out the vehicle brake system was artificially disassembled and damaged, not a natural failure or mechanical aging problem. The damage trace was neat and professional, obviously done by someone who understands vehicle maintenance technology, with a strong purpose and concealment. My pupils shrank suddenly, and a chill that was colder than the rainy night swept through my whole body. It was not an accidental failure. Someone deliberately destroyed my car's brake system on the eve of my wedding, trying to kill me in a car accident. Who would do such a vicious and desperate thing? The answer was self-evident. Last night was the eve of the wedding. The only people who knew my travel route and my plan to drive back from the company were Garrett and me. And Garrett had been secretly in love with Macy for 5 years and had been maintaining an ambiguous relationship with her. My marriage with him was the biggest obstacle for him and Macy to be together openly. Once I died in a car accident, he could perfectly get rid of this marriage, get all my property indirectly, and openly be with his beloved little Princess Macy, with no one to stop him. This is their vicious and crazy conspiracy. They not only betrayed my feelings and deceived my 5 years of youth, but even tried to take my life on the eve of the wedding to completely clear the way for their love. The previous betrayal was only emotional damage, but this time it was a fatal murder conspiracy. I took a deep breath, suppressed the towering anger in my heart, and immediately saved the vehicle inspection report as key evidence, while contacting a professional forensic institution to conduct a secondary authoritative identification to ensure that all evidence was irrefutable and legally effective. At the same time, I checked the access records of my community parking lot and the company parking lot and successfully found the surveillance video of Garrett sneaking into my car to destroy the brake system the night before. In the late night when I was working overtime in the company, Garrett quietly appeared in the company parking lot, stayed beside my car for more than 10 minutes, and left in a hurry after completing the damage. The surveillance footage was clear and complete, completely recording his every malicious move. Ironclad evidence is conclusive, no room for sophistry. At this moment, Garrett's true face was completely stripped off. He was not only a hypocritical and cheating man, but also a vicious and cold-blooded murderer who dared to kill his fiancée for his lover. 5 years of deep love in exchange for emotional betrayal and fatal murder conspiracy. My heart was completely cold, and the desire for revenge became extremely firm and crazy. I will never let these two vicious people go easily. I will let them pay 10 times and 100 times the price for their betrayal and murder attempt. Hashtag chapter 3/3 explosion. Scumman's public pretending collapse. Relatives and friends on the spot face slapping. 9 o'clock in the morning, the 5-star hotel wedding banquet hall that was supposed to hold our wedding was already full of guests. All relatives, friends, colleagues, and partners had arrived one after another, waiting for the bride and groom to appear. Garrett rushed to the hotel early in a neat groom suit, with an anxious and aggrieved expression on his face, performing a perfect scene of abandoned groom in front of all guests. He kept explaining to the surrounding relatives and friends with a helpless tone. Naomi suddenly lost her temper last night and insisted on canceling the wedding for no reason. I have been persuading her all night, but she just refused to listen. I really have no way to deal with her willfulness. His words successfully guided public opinion, making all guests think that I was willful, unreasonable, and impulsive, ruining the wedding for no reason and embarrassing everyone. Many relatives and friends began to whisper and criticize me. Naomi is usually so rational. How can she be so reckless on the wedding day? Garrett is so good and tolerant. She is too headstrong. 5 years of relationship. It's a pity to break up like this. It's all her own fault. Garrett listened to these comments in secret satisfaction, pretending to be sad and wronged, and gaining everyone's sympathy and favor. He thought that as long as he occupied the public opinion high ground, all the faults would be mine, and he could get away with a perfect image, and even take the opportunity to win more people's sympathy to pave the way for his future development. But he never expected that I would appear at the wedding scene with all the ironclad evidence at this moment. I walked into the luxurious wedding banquet hall alone, wearing a capable professional suit, calm and elegant, without any embarrassment or decadence. All the noisy discussions in the hall stopped instantly, and all eyes were focused on me. Garrett's eyes flashed a trace of panic, but he quickly adjusted his expression, took the initiative to greet me, and pretended to persuade me gently. "Naomi, you're finally here. Don't be willful anymore. The wedding can still go on. Don't let everyone laugh at us." His hypocritical appearance made all the guests sigh and praise his tolerance and generosity again. I stood firmly in the center of the banquet hall, facing all the guests, and raised my mobile phone without hesitation. The large screen that was originally used to broadcast wedding photos and romantic videos instantly switched to the 5-year navigation records, GPS automatic voice recording, parking lot surveillance video, and vehicle damage identification report. All the ironclad evidence was clearly presented in front of everyone's eyes, loud and clear, without any room for disguise. The mechanical GPS voice echoed in the quiet banquet hall again, recalculating the default route to Waverly Apartment. After picking up the little princess, proceed to Oak Ridge Amusement Park. The dense 5-year morning and evening pickup records were displayed line by line, shocking everyone present. The surveillance video of Garrett secretly destroying my car brake system was played in a loop, and the professional identification report was enlarged and displayed on the screen word by word. The entire banquet hall fell into dead silence in an instant. All the discussions and accusations against me disappeared completely, replaced by extreme shock and horror. Garrett's perfect and tolerant persona completely collapsed in an instant. His face turned pale in an instant, his body trembled violently, and the gentle and sad expression on his face completely cracked, leaving only panic and despair. All the relatives and friends who had just criticized me were completely stunned, staring at Garrett in disbelief, unable to believe that the gentle and reliable man in their eyes was such a hypocritical, cheating, and vicious person. I stood in the center of the hall, my voice clear and powerful, spreading to every corner of the banquet hall. I canceled the wedding not because of willfulness, but because this man has betrayed me for 5 years. For 5 years, he took time every day to pick up and drop off his lover Macy, romantic and meticulous, but he refused to take a 5-minute detour to save me when I was sick and weak. Last night, on the eve of our wedding, he secretly destroyed my car's brake system, trying to kill me in a car accident, just to be with his lover openly. 5 years of devotion in exchange for 5 years of deception and a fatal murder conspiracy. Such a man, I refuse to marry. Every word I said was sonorous and powerful, smashing all Garrett's hypocritical disguises completely. The entire audience was in an uproar. All relatives and friends looked at Garrett with disdain and anger, and the sympathy he had just gained completely vanished, turning into endless ridicule and disgust. It turns out that he is the one who is wrong. He has been cheating for 5 years and even tried to kill his fiancée. What a vicious and hypocritical man. He almost ruined Naomi's life. No wonder Naomi canceled the wedding. Anyone who encounters such a thing will leave decisively. Garrett stood stiffly on the spot, surrounded by countless condemning eyes, completely humiliated and disgraced, with no room to hide. His face was ashen, and he couldn't say a word of excuse. All his premeditated performances completely backfired, and he became the biggest joke of the whole wedding scene. Hashtag Chapter 4 Fourth Explosion. Mistress career collapse. Workplace reputation completely destroyed. The wedding scene farce spread rapidly in the circle of relatives and friends, and I did not stop the pace of counterattack. Since these two people have ruined my 5 years of youth and tried to take my life, I will completely destroy their careers and reputations so that they have no room to stand in the city. I sorted out all the evidence of Garrett and Macy's 5-year ambiguous relationship, long-term private dating, and using working hours for personal affairs, and sent all the complete materials to their company's board of directors, human resources department, and internal staff group. Garrett is the company's middle-level supervisor, and Macy is his direct subordinate. The company has clear regulations prohibiting office romances, especially superiors using their positions to ambiguous subordinates and abusing working hours for personal private affairs. What's more, their long-term private interaction has seriously affected work efficiency, and Garrett even used company resources to pick up and drop off Macy many times, occupying public resources for personal use. After the company received the complete evidence, it immediately launched a special investigation. All the staff saw the 5-year intimate dating records, navigation records, and chat screenshots, and the whole company was in an uproar. Macy has always created a pure, innocent, and hardworking image in the company, relying on her weak and sweet appearance to win the favor of many leaders and colleagues. But the ironclad evidence completely exposed her true face, a scheming mistress who's been secretly lurking for 5 years, deliberately seducing her superior, destroying other people's feelings and marriage. The company immediately issued a public dismissal notice, announcing that Macy was dismissed for serious violation of company regulations and immoral personal conduct, and putting her on the industry blacklist. From then on, Macy was completely banned from the entire industry, and no company in the city would dare to hire her again. Her carefully maintained, pure, and innocent persona collapsed completely, her workplace reputation was completely ruined, and her career future was completely buried. She finally no longer has the so-called little princess treatment, no longer has Garrett's exclusive pickup and drop-off, and can only bear the endless accusations and ridicule of the people around her. Facing the sudden career collapse, Macy completely lost her usual sweet and weak appearance. She frantically found Garrett, quarreled, and blamed him hysterically, complaining that he ruined her future. The two people who had been intimate and dependent on each other for 5 years completely turned against each other, tearing their faces apart and exposing each other's scandals and dark secrets, making each other more embarrassed and miserable. Hashtag Chapter 5 Fifth Explosion. Scum man career frozen. Social circle complete exclusion. Garrett's end is even more miserable than Macy's. As a middle-level supervisor of the company, his immoral conduct and vicious murder attempt have completely violated the company's corporate culture and employment bottom line. The company not only issued a public criticism notice for the whole company, demoted him, and suspended him for inspection, but also froze all his promotion channels and year-end benefits. All the project resources in his hands were taken back, all his working authority was revoked, and he was reduced to an ordinary employee with no real power overnight. His years of workplace struggle and accumulation were completely destroyed, and his future promotion path was completely cut off. What's more fatal is that all the relatives, friends, business partners, and social contacts who originally admired and trusted him have completely alienated him after knowing the truth. No one is willing to cooperate with a hypocritical, ungrateful, and vicious man who betrays his feelings and tries to kill others. His social circle completely collapsed, all business cooperation was terminated, and his personal reputation was completely rotten in the upper-class circle of the city. Originally, he relied on my connections and resources to expand his social circle and obtain high-quality business resources in the past 5 years. After the breakup, all my personal resources and contacts completely cut off all cooperation with him, making him lose all development opportunities. He finally tasted the bitter fruit of perfunctory and betraying me. All the glory and resources he had obtained in the past 5 years were all given by me, and now they are all taken back by me one by one. Hashtag Chapter 6 Sixth Explosion. Legal full counterattack, double compensation, and criminal investigation. I never stopped at moral condemnation and workplace sanctions. I chose to use legal weapons to carry out the most thorough and crushing counterattack. My lawyer officially filed a lawsuit against Garrett on 2 major charges: intentional injury endangering public safety and emotional fraud causing personal and property losses. The act of deliberately destroying the vehicle brake system is a serious illegal and criminal act that endangers public safety. Once convicted, he will face fixed-term imprisonment. At the same time, during the 5-year relationship, Garrett accepted a large number of valuable gifts, luxury items and property transfers from me, including customized watches, designer suits, high-end electronic equipment, and large living expenses. These properties are all my personal premarital property. He obtained these properties on the premise of false love and marriage commitment, which belongs to improper enrichment and emotional fraud. I asked the court to order him to return all the property in full and compensate me for mental damage fees, career delay fees, and youth loss fees, with a total compensation amount of more than $1 million. Facing the formal court summons and criminal investigation notice, Garrett was completely terrified and desperate. He had never thought that the gentle and tolerant woman who had always compromised for him would become so decisive and ruthless once she turned against him. He knelt down and begged for mercy repeatedly, hoping that I would withdraw the lawsuit and give him a chance to reform. He cried and repented, saying that he was obsessed for a while, that he knew his mistake, and that he would break off all relations with Macy and make up for me for the rest of his life. But I was completely indifferent to his belated repentance and humble begging. When he destroyed my brake system and wanted to take my life, when he perfunctory my weakness and loved another woman wholeheartedly, he never thought of showing mercy to me. There is no mercy for betrayal and no forgiveness for murder conspiracy. I firmly refused all his reconciliation requests and insisted on pursuing his legal responsibilities to the end. The court's trial progressed rapidly with sufficient and complete evidence. In the end, the court ruled that Garrett was guilty of endangering public safety, sentenced to fixed-term imprisonment, and ordered to return all improper gains and compensate me for all losses in full. He completely lost his freedom, career, reputation, and property overnight, and fell from a promising middle-level supervisor to a criminal with a criminal record, completely ruined for life.